You may believe in God, you go to church, you pray before you eat, but this whole Christian life thing, it kind of sucks. It's not really doing anything for you. You had hoped that being a Christian would be more life-changing, but life still just seems so ordinary. You have the same struggles as your colleague, days just fly by without much meaning, praying and reading the Bible, still a bit boring. You may even find yourselves in situations sometimes doing things that you know kind of that you shouldn't do them, so then you feel bad and guilty. And most Christian men settle for that underwhelming, sucky Christian life and miss out on the power and the difference that it can make, because you don't need to settle for that. There's something very specific that you can do which will make your Christian life go from here to here. But before we get to that, you need to understand the problem, and that has everything to do with Legos. Let me explain. Long ago, God created Adam and Eve. They were perfect, fresh out of the box. They had that new smell on them. They were beautiful. They were happy. But one day, God's enemy offered something very unique to Eve, an expansion set. He convinces her that she can be more than who God created her to be. She doesn't need to be limited by what God has created. She can be a creator. Eve likes the sound of that, buys into the lie, not realizing she's the first human being ever to get scammed, not knowing that there was a hidden cost that comes with this Be Your Own God expansion set. See, when God created the human race, he designed them to find everything that they would need to feel fulfilled in their relationship with God, their creator. Acceptance, identity, purpose, truth, power. But now that Eve has decided to be her own God instead, where is she gonna get those things now? She would need to either find them in herself or in what is around her. And this completely changed the way we as humans work. Because in God's design, all their needs were fulfilled. So they could live in total peace and freedom, just being focused on what they could mean for others. What was the foundation for their decision-making, their thoughts, their feelings? It was selflessness. They could take from God what they need. They're fulfilled, and now they can give and give and give to others without needing something back. That is freedom. But what happened now that Eve disconnected herself from God? She's no longer fulfilled. Now Eve is in need. And what do you do when you're in need? You're going to try to fill the need. And so Eve's focus, the roots of her decision-making and thoughts and feelings shifts from being other-centered, give, to being self-centered, taking from what is around her, trying to fill her needs. Now, what does all of this have to do with us and our lives today? Well, this self-centered mindset that identifies as its own God, thinking it knows what is best, what is right and wrong, did not just stay with Eve. She took Adam with her in her fall, and it became like this health condition that runs in the family, being passed on from generation to generation, which we all inherit at birth. So instead of us being born with the selfless motives, finding all our needs met in God as was the plan, now instead we start with a self-centered heart, being in need, and now as our own gods, it's up to us to find out who we are, what life is, how we fit in, what we believe to be true. So what do? We start looking around. So many options out there. And we start building. We start building our lives with what the world has to offer, with what we can find around us, based on what we think is best. Trying to figure out how to fill that now empty part in our being with these things that the world has to offer. You want to feel accepted, right? Well, you can try to find it in these friends, and just they will really make you feel accepted as long as you do what they want you to do. Or else you can pursue this career, or you can buy all these things. Just think of what people will think of you. And if you want to escape any of the negative feelings and consequences that may come with some of these previous choices, you can always drink this, or you can try this game. We call it the blame game. Or just choose from our wide array of options of video games and binge-worthy series to really take your mind off of it. And from time to time, we might be pretty satisfied looking at the latest edition on our builds in our lives. But once that shine wears off, we're all still faced with that emptiness inside of us. We may be distracted for a while by all these things we can put in, fooling ourselves that we're doing all right, trying to ignore the realization that we're still feeling unfulfilled. Apparently, the fulfillment we can't find in ourselves. We can't find it in other people. We can't find it in any of the options that we find around us. But what else are we supposed to do? We're just doing what we think is right. And we can't help that. We're born like this. It wasn't our choice. It's not our fault. It's not our fault until someone shows us the instructions. Because when you have the instructions, you can see which block goes where. When you have the instructions, you can see which pieces belong to the set and which ones don't. And God has given us these instructions in the Bible. It's like a step-by-step guide to how to build back life to how it was meant to be. Speak only words that build others up. Always tell the truth. Love your wives as Christ loved the church. And apparently, filling our lives so full with all kinds of stuff that we don't have time for our children, or eating unhealthy food and masturbation, all these things, apparently they don't fit in. These are the instructions to restoration, to having our needs be fulfilled in God again. And we can see what that life looks like, the final product, the picture on the box, in the life of Jesus. He's our living example that we can follow. Amazing, right? Problem solved. Or do you think that having the instructions, does it solve everything? My son, he loves to play with Legos. And sometimes it happens when he's building something new, he gets stuck. He calls me, I do my little investigation, and 99% of the time come to this conclusion.
Ellie and I, you didn't look at the picture!
He had a piece, thought he knew where it should be, later finds out it was not where it should be. He got stuck and couldn't continue building what he expected to build, wanted to build, and instead ended up in a situation that could have easily been avoided by following the instructions. Now here's our problem. You cannot be a follower and a creator at the same time. You cannot follow God while still living as your own God. But this is exactly what many of us Christian men try to do, and that makes our Christian life suck. We get convinced that God exists, so we go to church, we give offerings, and we pray before we eat. Now we think we're living Christian lives. We're putting a few blocks in the right place, so we're following God, right? But this appearance hides the fact, even for ourselves, that we are still playing the Be Your Own God expansion set. We still build our lives based on what we think is best for us. Whether it is because we really want something, I mean, look how beautiful this is. Or because of self-preservation, not daring to be different, like, if I put this, what will others think of me? It can be comfort or traditions that we base our lives on, or most persuasive of all, our feelings. And while we expect this life to fulfill us, after all, we have built some Christian things, it actually leaves us unfulfilled. It's like putting a coin in the slot machine and expecting the jackpot. So our expectations are not met, we're not seeing any progress, we're still facing the same problems, it doesn't seem to work. But not only do we feel unfulfilled, it's worse because we have the instructions, we now know what life is supposed to look like. Now we know what we're supposed to do, the persons we're supposed to be, the choices we're supposed to make. We hear it in sermons, we're surrounded by people around us that think like that and do like that, but guess what? Our Be Your Own God mindset doesn't really like all that. So what happens when we don't do it like that? When we don't want it like that? When we don't feel for that? What happens? Now we feel guilty. Bad conscience, feelings of failure, knowing that we're never doing good enough. And that sucks. So when it doesn't fulfill us and it makes us feel bad, Does that sound attractive? So what do? We seek a way out. So either we twist the instructions that to make it fit to the picture that how we want to build, so it can justify our thoughts and feelings and actions, or we grow numb to it. We try to ignore the conflicts and we just continue building and living our ordinary lives with a little bit of God on the side, or we just give up on it altogether. Does any of those sound like a good solution to you? They're all based on the wrong idea about what the problem is. Your Christian life sucks because you're not letting God be God. The key to a fulfilling Christian life is to not live as your own God, but in all things submit to your Creator God. A half Christian life doesn't work. It's weak, it's boring, it's miserable. You want to go all in. To not try to find what you need to be fulfilled in yourself or in what is around you, the people or the world, but to make God your source to take from. Purpose and acceptance, identity and power. You want to take it from God. When you do that, it will not matter what circumstances you find yourselves in what people around you may do or not do and give you or not give you. You are full. Now you can finally be free. No longer needing to carry that burden of trying to provide for yourself what you think you need. No more taking from others and building and failing and this and that. Being self-centered, now you can finally live to give and still be full. But to experience that, you need to let God shape your decision making. If He says, this block here should go there, don't fight Him. If He says, that's not a part of it, let it go. If He says we got to bring all these things down, bring a sledgehammer. Just follow the instructions. You need to make a decision. Who is your God? You or your Creator? Right now, while God is speaking to your heart, man up. Dare to make the decision to surrender your whole life to Him. If that's what you want to do, type in the comments, I'm all in. Right now, make that decision. Go to the comments and type, I'm all in. Stop messing around with your faith. Take it seriously. Take responsibility for your life and your family. Learning to make God your only source, surrendering in every area of your life, is a journey. Along the way, there will be setbacks, there will be missteps. That is bound to happen. But what will increase your chances of success is to do it together. So besides subscribing to the channel where all my videos are designed to help you to become a holy man of God, I'm also starting a weekly newsletter with practical insights and tips. And you can sign up for it using the top link in the description, somewhere below around the like button, and then you get the first Holy Man newsletter edition in your email immediately.